Hi, I'm Sarah, the head teacher of the School of Gentle Protest, and this is the last week of our 6-week curriculum. It's been an amazing 6 weeks. We've had nearly 1,000 students sign up and take part, and just imagine the size of the assembly hall that we'd have to get to fit you all in. The homework that people have been sharing with our hashtag, A School of Gentle Protest, has been really thoughtful. People have spent a long time watching the videos, reading the magazines, listening to the vlogs, and really feeding back their comments and thoughts and how they can fit what they've learned into their protests now. The conversations people have had, that I've been stalking them online and reading all your conversations, and they're really thoughtful and really lovely and encouraging of each other, and just seeing people connect as well has been really lovely, seeing you all as students supporting each other. But we've got a final lesson to do. This is week 6. So before the last bell rings, let's talk about careful protest. So careful protest meaning that as gentle protesters, we should be very caring of people, but we should also be really careful with our strategies to be the most effective protesters possible. And for me, I find the phrase from Martin Luther King a really good one, which is that we need a tough mind and a tender heart, which sounds opposing, but actually it's really powerful to join them together. But it can be difficult, which is why this lesson is all about how to be tough-minded and tender-hearted. A tough mind is a sharp mind. It's an intelligent mind. It means that it's got lots of knowledge. The opposite of a tough mind is a soft mind. So you're a bit sluggish, you're a bit lazy, you're not really thinking critically. And it's really important in our campaigns that we have a really tough mind. And tough in 3 ways. We need a very clear goal, we need a strategy, and we need critical thinking throughout our protesting. We need a goal because if we don't have a goal, we're not asking people to change and people aren't accountable. So, for example, if you really care about climate change and you're worried about the world that we're creating, then you go on a march. But if you just go on a march saying, I care about this issue, you'll have business leaders and politicians secretly thinking, oh, this is really good because they haven't actually asked us anything. So we're not accountable to anything. So really good they've gone on this march, well done them. But if you have a really clear goal saying, I want this policy changed or I want your business practices to change, then it's much harder than to avoid that question that you've asked them or that demand that you've given. So you want a very clear goal that's realistic, but also makes people accountable. You also need a strategy, so you need to know who are the people with the power, so you target the right people, and what's the best way to target them. So in lesson 1, I mentioned that I won lockers for my local school when I was head girl in secondary school, and I realised quite quickly with my strategy that it was wrong. I was targeting the head teacher, thinking that she had all the power, when actually I figured out that the people with the power were the school, the parent governors. And once I realised that they had the most power, I targeted them and said, we really want lockers for the students because they're carrying heavy bags and it's not a health and safety issue. I've measured all the rooms. And once I got the parents involved, we got the lockers. So being very strategic with what is your plan rather than just looking at tactics first, which sometimes campaigners do. And the third one is critical thinking throughout, which for the whole 6 weeks I've been banging on about critical thinking because not only is it important for planning your strategy, throughout all of it you should always be reflecting on what you're doing, questioning whether you're using the right tactics, whether you can improve, and always focusing on that goal. What are you trying to reach rather than veering off or making it too broad? So you need a really tough mind. And you know when you've had a tough mind because it hurts a little bit at the end of the day and you go a little bit cross-eyed and you think, oh my word, I've worked really hard and I need a break. And that's when you can celebrate and know that you've done a really vigorous and rigorous campaign that you're delivering with a really strong, sharp brain. So get that tough mind working. So if we only have a tough mind, we could actually become quite ruthless, and we could see people as just cogs in the wheel, but we need to step over them and get to our goal, which is why having a tender heart is so vital, because as we know, and we've seen throughout this whole curriculum, that people connect on an emotional level. And if we want to change systems and structures, we do actually need to help people change their hearts and minds. And you can't do that by just having a tough mind. We need to connect with people on an emotional level. And I think the three most important ways to do that are empathy, solidarity, and through humility. So empathy is really important because we need to engage with people and understand those victims that are directly affected. But also, and what we often forget, is we need to empathise with power holders. So empathy meaning put yourself in their shoes. So for a business leader, someone who runs a company that actually employs suppliers that use sweatshops. Now we need to empathise with that CEO and that company leader to say, okay, how are they letting this awful thing happen? Put yourself in their shoes. Have they got too much on? Do they not realise that they're actually fueling sweatshop industry? Have they got too much pressure from shareholders or customers who want really, really cheap clothing? Do they not want to engage with that because they just want to make as much money as possible and retire? You really need to put yourself in their shoes and try and understand where they're coming from, so that any strategy you've got, you really engage with them on an emotional and on a mind way as a logistical reason. So really looking at empathy with power holders. The second one is solidarity. So always thinking about how can you work alongside people. You should never campaign on issues where the voice of those directly affected is not being heard. We should always try and make sure we're alongside victims and people being affected and not in front of them trying to save these people, which isn't ethical and it's not very respectful for them. So really making sure that you're in solidarity with people, you're part of a movement. And that links in with the third one, which is humility, which I think we need to talk about much more in campaigning circles, especially as a gentle protester, is actually we need to realise where we don't have power. Where we do have power, we can try and work with that. But, for example, I'm not a politician, so I can't go into the UK House of Commons and vote on a law. Only my MP can. So I need to be very humble actually and say to my MP, I can't go in the House of Commons and vote, but you can. So how can I encourage you to vote in an ethical way that actually helps the world be a more gorgeous place? And often with campaigning, we need to acknowledge that you're not going to get praise for a lot of campaigning we do that is strategic. Sometimes it's very hidden. You don't see the change you're making, or change happens and you never get any credit for it. And that doesn't matter, because it's not about you. It's not about winning a campaign. It's not about these people losing. It's not about you having the power, which is often all those words that are used in campaigning. It's about what is the issue that I care about and how can I be a useful tool to make sure that that injustice is fixed and solved. So humility, pretty powerful and really important. I hope those 6 points unpack Martin Luther King's brilliant phrase, tough mind and tender heart. And in week 6, we're calling this careful protest. So being very caring of people, but also being very careful in delivering our protests. The final homework for this week and the end of this curriculum is to look over the last 5 videos we've done, particularly the visiting lecturers that you've seen, our visiting professors, and pick out where they've had really tough, sharp minds. What has their strategy been? What has their goal been? What's their strategy? And what's the critical thinking throughout the vlogs, the series that I've had with them? And also pick out where they've shown a real tender heart. Where have they empathized with people? Where have they shown solidarity? And where they've been really humble. And that's really powerful. I want you to pick them out Share them again on social media or email them to me if you don't use social media, and let's have this conversation happen like we have with all the other weeks of what does it mean to be a careful protester. That's the end of the course from the School of Gentle Protest. I hope you found these 6 lessons useful. I hope you found them inspiring, but more importantly, I hope you found them empowering to protest carefully and courageously. Big thanks to the visiting professors for their support, their time, and for sharing their wisdom. But a bigger thanks to you guys, the students, for not only taking part, but taking part seriously, inviting other people to take part, doing your homework, sharing your homework, and just having really thoughtful, serious, but also really lovely, hopeful conversations with each other and with me. Your interaction has really brought this school to life. The school isn't closed. All vlogs will stay up and all the resources will stay up so that you can watch them again. You can use them as resources in different groups or do whatever you want with them. And I'll set up a Facebook group for the alumni of the school, because this isn't a normal school where I grade you, then you graduate, and then you just leave. We're all lifelong learners together and active protesters. So we need to support each other, encourage each other, and learn from each other's gentle protest. Class dismissed. See you on Facebook.